Lovely day for a walk, isn't it? British summertime and all that. Well, I'm going on this walk today to talk to you about the Black Diamond Beta-Lite pack that I've got on at the moment. And we'll run some of the features and go over it over the course of this video. I'll give you some feedback on it. But there's one very important feature. The fabric's waterproof. So let's put that to the test. Right, so first up, what is the Beta-Lite? Well, I've got the 45 on, and it also comes in a 30 litre as well. So there's two capacity differences, and then they come in a variety of different back lengths. So the 30 litre comes in a small, medium and a large, and the 45 also comes in an extra small on top of those sizes. So they've all got fixed back lengths, so you've got to make sure that you get the right back length for you, for that fit. And with that in mind, I'm in a large back length here. Now, both packs have very similar features. They are, for all intents and purposes, the same pack. One of them's just a little bit smaller, but the 30 does get stripped back a little bit more. So you don't get aluminium stays in the back of the 30, whereas you do in the 45. And you have a slightly different compression strap setup on the top. Otherwise, functionally, they are very similar. All of the accessories, like the satellite pack that I've got on the back here at the moment, that can also be run on the front. That one is compatible with the 30 as well. That one is also an optional extra, but it's one that I'd probably recommend you get just for a little bit more versatility with the packs. The 45 that I've got on here, according to Black Diamond, in a size medium, comes in at just shy of 900 grams. I think officially it's 890 grams. I have brought a scale with me, so I'll be weighing this size large when I strip everything out of it, and we'll give a figure there. But that's not as light as the Beta-Lite can go. For a 45 litre pack, 900 grams is already super light. But you can strip this thing down to, well, we'll find out in a minute once we actually weigh it. If you are carrying it in that configuration, I would recommend dropping the weight a little bit. So at the moment, I've got absolutely everything on this pack, and it's also pretty chunky because I've got camera kit, tripod, extra water, stove, things that you might not always be carrying. But my pack, as it sits right now with everything in it, is just over 14 kilos. And this thing is super comfortable. You know, just as a side note, getting out into the woods while it's raining is really nice. The smell of petrichor, all the birds are still singing, and I've got the place to myself. But it's just really peaceful. Can highly recommend it. Get out there and just enjoy it. Starting to get quite moody here in the woods now, and ideally I want to be able to stop, pitch a tarp somewhere so I can sit and talk you through some of the features. So let's see if we can't find somewhere, and then I'll get back to you. So we've got a good location for the tarp. I won't bore you with the details of setting that up, but this is a good opportunity to talk about the fabric on both Beta-Lite packs. So I have no issues popping this down straight on the ground, and this fabric is also tough as nails. So the outside of the pack is covered in water here, but I know for a fact that the goods inside are going to be nice and dry. It uses Challenge Sailcloth Ultra 200 in the main body, so the vast majority of it is 200 denier, and then the base uses a reinforced 400 version of the same fabric. And the fabric is a little bit special. So it's an ultra high molecular weight polyethylene, which is a very big mouthful. But essentially, it's a highly abrasion resistant, very durable, yet lightweight fabric, and in this instance is also essentially waterproof. So I always recommend using dry bags regardless of whether the pack says it's waterproof or not. But like I said, super durable, super tough fabric, feels really good, and also I think looks really good. And with the contrast on the side pockets, where you've got just a nylon ripstop in the oversized pockets here, and when I say oversized, they really mean it. So Black Diamond rate these as a litre each, so a litre on each side, and then in the 30 version they're down to half a litre. But I would call them out on that because I think they're much bigger, because I've got a tripod in this side and a 1 litre Nalgene bottle very neatly nestled inside there with no issues whatsoever. And on the other side I've got a 1 litre Yeti bottle, or whatever the American equivalent is in ounces. I'll pop up on screen what the ounce version is there, because I forget, and a Nemo chair in those side pockets, which is just mind-blowing. Now they do add into that 45 litre capacity, so officially each of those is 1 litre, and then the main body of the pack is 43. The stretch mesh pocket on the front and the pockets on the harness that we'll go into in a little bit when I talk through some more of the features don't add into that, so they are bonus snack storage, which is always a win in my book. Looking inside the pack, I've got everything in dry bags, but everything is absolutely bone dry in here because the inside of this fabric is also taped. So if you can see the taping there, so it should be pretty reliable in its waterproofing. I haven't put it through its absolute paces because, as I say, I will always use dry bags regardless. But if you are an ultralighter, you can probably rely just on the fabric alone. So let's get stuck in some of the external features first. And we might as well start by removing the satellite pack, which, as I mentioned before, is an optional extra. So this is a standalone piece of kit that adds 4 litres of additional storage. And I'll be honest, it's one of my favourite things about this whole pack setup is the modularity. So in here at the moment, I've got a bunch of camera kit and things. This bag itself is not waterproof, and it's just made from a ripstop nylon rather than the fancier ultra fabric that we've got on the rest of the bag here. But this is a standalone hip pack or shoulder pack. There are straps on the inside here, but you get these 2 clips on either side, which are removable, so you can completely strip them off. But what it means is that you can clip this to certain points on the Betalight pack, and it's really useful because you don't get many extra pockets and features on the Betalight. It is more stripped back to reach that sub 1 kilo weight, but you've got attachment points on the front of the pack here, or the back of the pack, depending on which side you fall on. Let us know in the comments, is this the front or is this the back? I seem to confuse myself every time I talk about it. Is it where your back goes and the back's there, or is this the front because it's where you look at the pack? Always up for debate in the comments. But you can attach the satellite here, or you can attach it to the harness. And I've used both options. I'm not using the harness option today because I've got my camera attached here on a Peak Design capture clip. And I'll be honest, this is a little bit of a nuisance being here, but I'm so used to being able to do it on all of my packs, I've kind of made it work because it's just a logical place for it to go for me. But to attach this to the front, you put it through the twin chest straps. Now, one of these is a fixed chest strap with a little bit of elastic. So the upper one here just has a tiny little bit of stretch in it, just for comfort. But that one is just a standard webbing. The bottom strap is elasticated. So those slide through. See this back panel here? So you've got tube sewn into the back here that the straps can go through, and then it sits on the front of the pack or the back of the pack. Again, let me know that way. Now, one thing I have found by attaching it to the front is it's really useful from a utility point of view because you've got access to an extra pocket right on your chest here. So I use this for carrying camera kit, or if I'm out hiking and I'm not taking the camera or I'm not filming something for work, this will be full of snacks. Now, unfortunately for me, I am working today, so there are no snacks in here, but I do have a set of scales, which we'll come back to in a sec. But the other thing I find with this, and this is what I was running around to, is that it does tend to bounce around a little bit on the front, a little bit more than it does on the back. But for me, I'll take that compromise because it's so useful to have access to a big pocket like this without having to take the pack off. But if you are attaching this to the front, there is one extra thing that I would do that Black Diamond don't specify, but is a really useful thing to be able to do, because when you take this off, if you have to take the pack off and it's sat on the front, it just falls off. There's nothing actually retaining this to these straps. These are just threaded through here, like I said. But you also have these detachable clips, and running down the side of the running vest style harness on this pack, which by the way is super comfortable, you have some daisy chains. Now, these daisy chains are designed for chaining things to. Super straightforward. So take one of your clips, clip it through the daisy chain, and then back to the attachment point on the satellite pack. And then when you take the pack off, your satellite pack stays on the strap so it doesn't flop down to the ground. So if you are carrying camera equipment, mobile phones, anything that's a little bit more important that you don't want to get bashed up, it doesn't fall straight to the ground as soon as you take the pack off. So that's just a little win that I found from using this pack. Otherwise, just attach it straight to the back, or as it's an optional extra, just ignore it. If you don't buy it, it's not a problem. But back to the Betalite itself now. So as I said, this does have a running vest style harness, which is very comfortable. It is quite body hugging and sits a little bit closer to you, and the structure of the pack is a little bit more limited, especially on the 30-litre version. The 45 does have aluminium stays on the inside to give it a little bit more structural rigidity, because they're expecting you to carry a little bit more weight. But this pack, I'm going to take the camera off here so you can actually see it. Stay there. Has a few pockets on it. So on the one side, you have a single open pocket for hydration bottles. So it will take a 500ml soft bottle, or it will also take a sort of slimmer line 500ml water bottle. So think like smart water bottles, things like that will fit comfortably in this pocket here. In practice, I don't really use that pocket because, as I said, I've got a caps clip on here. I have got a soft bottle in there at the moment, but it's also a 300ml one, so that's just for a little bit of extra water today. I'm probably not going to drink this, and I'll have carried it around for no reason. On the other side, you have a little bit more utility. So you have another open stretch pocket with a reflective, is that reflective? I'm saying that, I think it's reflective. I'll have to run some tests in the dark. But you have an open pocket here, quite a small one, so useful for bars and snacks and things. And then you've got a bigger zipped pocket, which conversely, today I actually have a snack bar in. So you can pop a snack bar in there, no problem at all. And then I might use this for a mobile phone or something. But this pocket is not waterproof, so if you're out on a rainy day like I have been today, you probably want to store your phone inside a dry bag or on the inside of your jacket pocket. You also get two hip belt pockets. So these hip belt pockets are, I'll be honest, a little bit strange in the way that they sit. They flare out a little bit, and if you've got them full, you can catch your arms on them a little bit, at least I've found. But honestly, a lot of the time I'm not really using these hip belt pockets for anything other than snacks, so it's not really an issue. They are not the easiest to open one-handed, but they do open, they're nice and spacious, and they're a good size. You can just about get a mobile phone in here as well, but you might struggle if you've got a bigger sort of Max or Plus phone. Right, because I've already mentioned the side pockets, which, as I say, are massive. Again, for reference, I've got a big old Yeti bottle in this side, and I had the chair in there as well that I'm now sat on. And in this side, I had the tripod that is now sat underneath the camera that's recording, and an Nalgene bottle. So I won't mention those anymore, but you do have at the front, with a compression strap over the top, which is massive. So for the American market, this strap is really going to be for bear canisters and other bulky goods that you might need to carry in. We don't have any of that to deal with in the UK, although if anyone wants to release some bears, could be fun. Anyway, I digress. So this strap is a little bit long. If it's your own pack, you can obviously trim it down if you don't think you're going to be using it, but I would say keep it, because you never know what you can lash in over the top here. It's really useful for carrying sort of a foam sit pad or a Z sleeping mat. You can carry other things. You can carry a bear canister with you if you so choose, if you're in a part of the world that requires that. Anything else? A wheel of cheese? I don't know. Anything that you can think of can be secured under here. You could also potentially get away with securing a rope underneath here and using the Dynex compression straps on the side as well to secure a rope. This bag isn't going to be ideal for climbing just due to the shape and bulk of it, but if it is stripped back so you can strip the hip belt off it and everything, then you could in theory use this as a lightweight climbing pack. Haven't put that to the test yet, but maybe I will, and I'll secure a rope to the top with this lovely strap. But you get this big stretch mesh front pocket here, which is absolutely enormous. So this pocket here, super stretchy. I've been shoving stuff in here all the time and it looks good as new. It feels very durable, very stretchy, great for drying wet kit or just stashing something you need to grab in a hurry, like your waterproof. Super, super useful bit of kit. Right, let's get stuck into the inside. And there's not that much to see on the inside. So it is a roll top. All right, so the inside of the pack is just one big space. So I'm not sure how well that's going to come out on camera. I might throw a little bit B-roll in here. But you just have one big tube, essentially, to put things in. And this is really useful for just throwing kit in, especially if you have got everything in dry bags like I've got there, because then you can compartmentalize inside the pack, and you know that if you grab the blue dry bag, that's got your food in and your stove, the orange dry bag's got your spare clothes in, etc., etc. Or you can just stuff everything into this space. There are no internal pockets. There's nothing inside here apart from a hydration sleeve here. So you've just got a mesh hydration sleeve in the back, and then routing that comes out here, and then you can run it down either side so that you have a hydration bladder. So just out of curiosity, I have removed absolutely everything from the pack. It's all sat in a pile there. And again, because I've used dry bags, I'm not worried about putting it on the wet woodland floor here. But let's find out how much this thing weighs. So this is a size large, so it's not going to come out quite to Black Diamond's figures because they run it based on a size medium in the 45 litre. So I'm expecting this to come in a little bit heavier, but I've stripped absolutely everything out of the pack that doesn't belong with it. But all of the standard features of the pack are currently attached. So any compression straps, including the ones on the bottom, which I do normally strip off, are there at the moment. And the hip belt, everything else is all there in the pack. So let's find out, shall we? So we're on a 0 at the moment. And then let's weigh this guy. So not the most accurate of scales, but comes in at bang on 900 grams, which I'd say is pretty spot on to Black Diamond's figures. However, like I mentioned before, this pack does have quite the party trick. And that is in its fully strippable nature. So for all of you out there that want to go for the lightest weight pack, you are going to lose some of the features of something like the Betalite as it sits here. But if you're after the lightest weight, you tend to forgo a lot of features and some of the creature comforts. I personally run this pack pretty much exactly as it is, because at being sub 1 kilo, it's still super lightweight for me. And as evidenced by all the stuff that I've got out of my bag, coming in at 14 kilos, I'm not here for an ultralight time, but if I can save a little bit of weight, I will, but not at the sacrifice of comfort. However, if you do want to sacrifice everything, this pack is almost completely strippable. So all of the compression straps on the sides, so you've got one compression strap on each side, and this Dynex cord can be a little bit fiddly to do it, but they are all strippable because they are just girth hitched on to fixed loops. So both sides and the bottom, because you've got 2 compression straps on the bottom, which are also useful for carrying a foam pad, a tent, any accessories, things like that as well, are fully strippable. So I'll do the rest of the stripping of those off camera, so you don't see those. But the compression strap over the top, if you don't want that, that is also girth hitched on. So I'll take that off as well. On the back panel here, so you've got quite a comfortable back panel, although it is quite minimal. So if you are carrying quite lumpy things or heavy things, I would recommend leaving the foam in. So you've got a Velcro hook and loop attachment on the back here that just folds over. And then inside, you have a foam pad. So it's a nice thin piece of foam, but it provides a surprising amount of comfort and helps with the structure of the pack. That's one thing that I would absolutely recommend leaving in because it weighs next to nothing. And from a comfort point of view is very important. But for the sake of this, we want to strip it out, right? We want to see how light we can get this sucker. So that just goes back in there. And then the hip belt. So the hip belt is also fully strippable. And as a bonus, you can also thread the hip belt through that pouch. So the satellite pouch through the back panel here. And then you can have a triple pocket hip belt setup. So for sort of summit missions or ultra lightweight adventures where you don't need to carry the whole pack, if you've got the satellite pack, you can attach the hip belt, detach it from the main pack and attach it to the satellite, and then you can run it that way. Or you can just take the satellite as is, because it does come with its own little straps. So you've got these little clips here that you can undo the hip belt, and then there's a Velcro pad on the back here again, which you undo. Again, a little bit fiddly, not going to be the quickest, but voila. one hip belt gone. All right, so we've removed pretty much everything we can. So we've got the hip belt off, we've got the foam back pad off, and all of the compression straps. Now on the 45, you do still get load adjusters up at the top here. These aren't removable, and on 30 litre you lose those, so they're not there to begin with. It makes it a little bit lighter, but these aren't removable. Arguably you could say that if you really wanted to, you could take off the chest straps, but why you would is beyond me. They weigh so little, and when you're taking out the rest of the structure of the pack, you want something that's going to hold it on and be a little bit more comfortable to keep those there. But also exclusive to the 45, if I can roll this guy down, you've got a couple of aluminium stays. So you've got one on either side here. There's just a little tab. Calm down, Michael. And then you have these stays here, which will both come out. Again, why you would take these out, because then you have a completely unstructured pack. For some of you that are after the ultralight, yeah, by all means. But personally, for the weights that I'm carrying, the distances that I'm walking with this pack a lot of the time, I want a little bit more comfort and a little bit more structure to the pack. But now, you do really just have what is essentially a dry bag with straps. So let's see. In this form, again, size large, so the medium and small and extra small sizes in this will come in a little bit lighter. Your mileage may vary, your scales may be calibrated slightly differently. These luggage scales aren't the most accurate, but they give us an overall figure. All right, that's enough disclaimers. Let's weigh this thing. During filming, I realised that the scale calibration was off, so I reweighed the packs off camera, and in a size large it came in at 930 grams fully loaded, and 540 grams when all of these strippable features were taken off the pack. Still a phenomenal weight saving. Would you want to carry 45 litres worth of things over long distances at that weight? That's entirely up to you, because without any of the extra structure, so without that foam pad and the metal stays for the back, I would find myself struggling a little bit. But each to their own. If that's what you want to do and you want to run with a minimal weight setup for a super durable pack that is essentially waterproof, still has a few features, so you still get those chest pockets and the big side pockets, you can absolutely do it, and the Betalite is there for you to do that. But I would be taking a more lightweight approach rather than lightweight. So this pack is still lightweight however way you look at it, because it's sub 1 kilo. That's phenomenal for a pack of this size. But by keeping all of the features on it, it's still lightweight and it's more featured, it's more comfortable. I have a better time with it. So if you're considering something like the Betalite, consider whether you want it to be completely stripped back and run it as ultralight as you can. And if you want to, if that's your jam, absolutely. But consider a more lightweight approach. Go for something a little bit more comfortable. Try it out. You might like it more. I think the stays want to go back in the bag. If you've got any questions or comments about the Betalite, both the 45 and the 30, let us know down below and we will get back to you. We'll see you in the next one. Because it still retains all that 45 litre capacity. A buzzard just flew by. Go to the woods, there's cool things there. But at that 45 litre capacity, sorry, I'll try and stop getting distracted by birds.